Caddis Maximus here. This time just doing a quick review and a small comparison of the Empire 2754 contour gauge. This is, I still have the packaging here, this is one of the better grade ones, and it says it has stainless steel probes, and obviously this is for transferring patterns. It's mainly used in construction work for maybe using a small coping saw to transfer the pattern of molding, but they can be used in a variety of hand fabrication situations where you just need to make basically a stencil, and it would have to be an area where you get this blade essentially, which is composed of a bunch of pins which are spring loaded, so when you press it against something, the pins just push against whatever surface and end up generating a contour. So I've used them in certain automotive applications where I'm trying to fabricate or file little parts to fit. I've used them to more accurately transfer shapes onto sheet metal. Maybe I need to pass some kind of grommet through. And you, of course, can measure it out and mark all the points. What's nice is you can use a transfer gauge just to measure, say, two little cutouts from a chain link like that, and you know exactly how far they are, so all you have to do is just find where the corner is, put the corner there, and then use the transfer gauge, here we go, to just do the half cutout so you know exactly where you might need to drill the hole or just start cutting to make your square pass through. One thing, it is made in Taiwan and inspected in USA. I've never actually seen that term before. So anyway, these are used for molding, so it's real simple. They are really delicate because they have all these pins, and they've been around for a long time. Here's an old German-made one. I don't know if we can see that. Yeah, right there. The German-made one is a little bit nicer, but you can see the pins. If you have to be real careful with these, and most people don't use them very much anymore, primarily because in many situations they don't really save you time, but they can increase accuracy. And the fact that they are delicate. If you drop them or huck them in a toolbox and tools get set on top of them, it usually ends up ruining them. So they're just not very common anymore. In a second we'll compare to an antique, but if you had some complicated, say, piece of trim, or maybe you're trying to fit up a piece of sheet metal around some type of contour, like against a wall or some kind of project like that, you could have a complicated shape and still be able to use this gauge. It's a little funky around the curves, but then we have a odd pattern, but that pattern happens to be the shape over the top of that where I pressed it against that piece of chain. So now I could actually put this on the piece of sheet metal. It might make more sense, and you could put this on the inside of the piece of sheet metal and trace inside the curves, or you could use this side because of course it pushes the pins out proportionately, and then trace around, and then you can make these fine cuts in the sheet metal and it would fit just perfectly over the top of that shape, and a little bit of caulking, and it could be waterproof. So I could see them being used in boats in a variety of situations, and it's kind of nice when you just want to transfer a pattern that you can just use one of these contour gauges, and they're pretty cheap now. This thing was like $8 on sale. They've been around for a long time. This is a conformateur, an RGR. And this is what they used to look like. They were really massive. This actually is pretty nice. It has a bunch of brass pins, but some of them need adjustment. This one's old and dirty enough where it really has to be taken apart, and all these pins need to be kind of cleaned up and oiled, so it's kind of an effort. And you can see how big they were in the old days. This is probably a 1960s or 1970s unit. It is finer because these blades here, they are a bit, although they're a bit thicker, they're much thinner in the other dimension than, say, the pins of this Empire or this old German one. So one of these old ones is handy if you want more definition or higher resolution in the transfer. Obviously, these tools are relatively coarse. That's why they're mainly used in carpentry and just fabrication, where you don't, need high tolerances like machining. You can see how big this thing weighs, a few pounds. So this was a nice one where you could transfer and then clamp it down tight so that you didn't bump the impression that you made. But this one's definitely time consuming, and when it's really more for hobbies and other, I wouldn't say hobbies, but where you really need a lot more precision, and that's why you need a high resolution one, which takes a little bit more time to loosen and tighten. And once again, even this one I need to work on because I actually noticed I have a couple pulled out pins right there. these things can be a real hassle and they're a delicate. And I keep on going mentioning that just because for as handy as they are, that's the biggest Achilles heel. If they had some type of version which like had a plastic spring-loaded cover so that you could do your transfer, but when it's in storage, maybe come with a case or something to prevent them from just getting so beat up, then they might be just a little bit more common. But you know, you get these tools, and it seems anybody I know who's owned one either is, you know, doing work in their garage and always real careful about it, or inevitably kind of liked it, used it every once in a while, and then ended up dropping it and bending a bunch of the pins. So it's something to be aware of. That was a lot of talk generally about contour gauges, but you know, the Empire isn't bad. I like the way they integrated a ruler on top. Stainless steel pins is good. You know, the build quality compared to the German one. German one has screwed on end caps. It feels like it has just a little bit more spring tension, which you may like or not like. The pins in this Empire really do have a good amount of friction, and I guess time will tell to see how it loosens up. But these always do have a bit of friction, just so that it's less easy to bump the template once you've impressed it upon the contour gauge. Anyway, that was the end of this review and kind of comparison of the Empire contour gauge, as well as kind of showing, comparing against some other various styles of various vintages. And we're really showing how the Empire is really just the same iteration of something that's been around for many decades. And it's actually still kind of nice to see that they still sell these. Anyway, I really appreciate everybody watching and subscribing. And if you haven't subscribed, please do. Until next time, Catus Maximus out.